Harry, today's topic is going to be on judging, and we find it in Matthew chapter 7. And there's a couple places throughout it where we get an idea of what a Christian's responsibility is supposed to be with this word judgment. So we're going to start off in Matthew 7, verse 1. It says, "Do not judge, or you too will be judged." What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's quite it says you can't judge me. You're not supposed to judge each other, all this kind of stuff. But that's not exactly what Jesus is talking about here, because later he does talk about judging, and that's where we're going to go later. But this is not to judge another man's servant. Like when we see somebody doing this or do that, you say, well, is it maybe somebody does something that looks a little sketchy, but we don't know the background. Another person looks really righteous and virtuous, and we think they're just perfect, and we don't know that background either, because some of these people have a history that isn't exactly the same. So the concept is we don't know where the next person stands before God. I don't know, you don't know me, even though we know each other well. We don't know exactly how God feels about us. We maybe have things in our closet that we're not disclosing, and we're not hiding. Like Judas Iscariot had something. He looked good, but he certainly wasn't. So there's stuff there, and so Jesus is the judge, but not our concern at all about our fellow man, the person around us. No, like yeah. So if they're really living a sketchy life, that's different. But little things here and there, no big. That's not for us to worry. We just have to pray for them. If we think things aren't going right, we could speak to them, but we certainly don't throw them under the bus. We just accept that that's between them and God, and hopefully everything is good.
All right. In the next verse, it's interesting that we say all this, right? Because we read in verse 15, it says, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves." So here he's telling us to watch out, or pretty much judge them in a way, to be aware that this stuff does happen.
Yeah, and that is kind of the what I would call the ministry section, the people around us, people that are feeding us and directing us. We really have to be wise to that, because if, we have really good examples in Jesus and his disciples, but then we have the whole book of Acts also, how those disciples, how they shared the faith, and even the deacons like Stephen and Philip and a lot of other good people, what they did, and how they lived a simple, modest life. They served, and they served diligently, and they lived for their people, and they had fruits in their lives. And but we have to look at that. And what about the people we're following and we're watching and we're adoring today? What kind of lives do they lead? And we're not here to hurt them, but the thing is, we have to be wise. If we're following people that are sketchy or not living the Jesus life, my, that like we're responsible for that. That's our fault if we're doing that, because God, Jesus gave us the responsibility to beware of false prophets. They have to bring good fruit. Their lives have to be proper and responsible, and bearing witness of Jesus and teaching truth and truth alone, not for their own, and not asking you to send them your money. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness, how often did Jesus ask people for their money, or Paul or Peter? No, that wasn't what they were into at all. Be very, very careful for that. And again, the examples are there. Beware. That's all I'm saying.
And then in verse 21, we see this aspect of judging ourselves to see if we're in a good place with God. Let me go ahead and read it. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven." Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah, the will of my Father is in heaven. So, what is the will of the Father? To be obedient to Jesus. And he says that, so that it isn't just the ones that say, Lord, Lord. We also have to act that. And really, we have to look at ourselves. If we don't look at our neighbors, we do need to look at the people that are above us. But we have to, more than anything, look at ourselves. Are we what we need to be? Again, often think back to that verse in 2 Corinthians 5:13 that says, "Test yourself to see if you're in the faith. Are you really walking with Jesus?" Yeah, we have this journey, but are we getting it right? And if we does the Holy Spirit in us? Are we enjoying the journey? That's really important. If our journey is hard and difficult and miserable, That's worrisome because there's nothing more beautiful than a walk with God, to enjoy the journey with Jesus. You see the people in the faith in the Bible, they really were grateful and enjoyed that journey. And if the Holy Spirit in us and we have the mind of Christ, we'll act like Christ. And what a and that's where we want to be. And if we're not there, now's the time to figure that out. And now's the time to figure that and to humble ourselves. It took me a long time to get there, so I was not maybe not a good example that way, but finally, by the grace of God, I am so glad to be where I am.
Amen. Thanks a lot for this, Harry.
Thank you.